Once your setup is complete, you're ready to get started using myServiceApprentice. Before we get into creating work orders and actually using the system, I think it's important you have an understanding of how the system does what it does, or maybe why it does what it does, and where the links are, and so forth. So let's look at the very top menu bar. And of course, you see Home, Dispatch Board, ACC, and so forth. From our longtime users, we've found out there are a lot of common first stops. So when users log in, there's a lot of places or pages they go to first. Those are the dispatch board, the ACC, work orders, assignments, invoices, and customer/sites. Let's take customers and sites for instance, and we'll click on that and just keep an eye up here on the tab. If you click on customer sites, that opens up in another tab. We've chosen to keep the home page open in another tab whenever a link here is clicked, so that you can come back to this tab at any time in the case especially where you would want to reference any of the support or training materials over here on the right, or the online chat up here in the top right hand corner. Of course, you can reference any of the other material here as well. So I wanted to point out that any links here that you click on from the home page, including those over here in the More, accessed from the More button, if you click on these links from the home page, it will open up another tab. I'd also like to point out the More links. Obviously, we couldn't and wouldn't want to put all the menu items or all the links across the very top here. We'd run out of room. So over here under More, there's submenus, and every time there is a submenu for an item, once you put your mouse over top of that, once you hover over it, that will produce another menu. And if no menu appears, then, like in this case, I'm on Company. If no menu appears, that means clicking on it will take you somewhere. So just some usability items that I wanted to point out that should help you in using the system. Now, let's get down to business. Let's create a work order. To create a work order, the first thing you need is a customer with at least one site underneath it. If a customer calls in, you'll want to first search to see if you already have that customer in your database. Of course, you could look through each entry, go through page by page, but that's really not very efficient, especially once you get hundreds and thousands of customers in your system. You will want to search by name. So you can, well, search by something. You can search by different things, name, address, and so forth. I'll search by name. And let's say I have a customer calling in, it's Pizza Shack. Maybe I don't know though if it's Pizza Shack. Maybe hard to understand whether it's Pizza Shack, Pizza Shop, Pizza Box, something like that. All that to say, you don't necessarily want to type in the whole name. I prefer to type in part of the name, and in this case for pizza, okay, P-I-Z-Z. I'll search for that, and sure enough, there it is. So that would have found Pizza Shack, Pizza Shop, Pizza Box, whatever. So I'll confirm, and just to make sure this is the one that I want. Looks like it is. If it wasn't, I could click on New and enter a brand new customer with a site underneath it. In this case, I'll use this Pizza Shack. I'm just clicking on that. This will bring up the customer details screen. And I'll confirm what location they want me to service. And if it's something other than the shop here on Main Street, then I'd want to add a new site. So maybe they have multiple shops, and there's a new shop that we have never serviced before. This company's never serviced before. I click on New and create another site for that shop. For this example, we'll work with the existing site, so I'll click on that site, and now I'll go to the Site Details screen. The site details screen, of course, gives details about this site, the name, address, the billing address, the shipping address, phone numbers, and so forth. If any of this needs edited, just click Modify. You'd be able to modify any of this information. It's very straightforward. If you look down a little bit, you'll see a work orders table. This will show the first 5 most recent work orders for this site. If you want to see more, let's say you've been servicing this customer, you've serviced this customer tens or hundreds of times, you could click more and then see all of the work orders, the history of work orders for this particular site. But that's not our concern right now. Our goal right now is to create a new work order. So under the work order table, I'll click New, and this will bring up the new work order screen. Customer name and site and the main site phone number are automatically filled in. So the first step here on this screen is to select the call type. Now these call types, as you'll remember, have been entered by you or your company in the setup process. So you would just pick the call type you want. Let's just say this is normal. We'll call it a normal call. Whatever that means for our company, it's normal. When I select the call type, the priority and the estimated duration are automatically filled in. Those are the defaults for this particular call type. For whatever reason, I want to make this call a high priority. So this particular normal call, while typically they're medium priority, this one I'll make a high priority. And let's say rather than estimating it at an hour, I'm going to estimate it at 2 hours. My point there being that even though each call type has its defaults for priority and estimated duration, you can change them as needed. The promise date time, this is when you're looking to get somebody out there. So let's say we're going to get somebody out there today at, let's say, 2 p.m. So we'll get somebody out there today, or on the 18th of April 2016 at 2 p.m. So come over here to the right-hand side. The branch ID, that is an optional feature, so we'll skip over that for right now. Zones are optional as well. And created by, that will be filled in once the work order is actually created. So the next step to input something is the work description. The work description is really a short title of the work order. So in brief, what are you doing? So this might be something like service the widget, whatever the widget is and whatever that means. Something real short that's going to make sense to anybody in the company. So somebody who's dispatching and making sense to the technician obviously out in the field. So at a glance you can see what's to be done. Then in the notes field is where you can add some more detail. So more detail about the work will be added here. You can put in thousands of characters here in the notes section. I'll keep it very brief, and if you need to see a little more area of the screen or of this field, you can click and drag when your mouse turns into the arrow like this. Click and drag and expand that field, and it'll make that field a little bigger for you to more easily enter more text. Once you have that information entered, click Save, and the work order is given a number, the next available number, and the created by field is filled in indicating who created the work order. You'll also notice along the bottom of the screen here, work order is given a status. So your work orders can have different statuses so you can track them. And post status, this actually has to do with a company that is using the QuickBooks integration option. So we'll not talk about that at this point, so you can ignore this for now. We have our work order, The next step is to go ahead and assign this work order to a technician, or in other words, put it on the board. To do that, just click Create New Assignment. By default, it will give the date and time of the work order, or from the promised date time that's on the work order. Most times that's going to be what you want the assignment to have as far as a date and a time. However, for whatever reason, let's say you need to put it on the board for a different day or a different time, you can do that just by changing the date here. It won't affect the work order. It just means you're actually putting it on the board for a different day and time. And let me scroll down here a little bit so you can see things a little better. Great. We'll keep it on the board for the 18th at 2 p.m. and we'll just give it to a technician. I'll give it to Charles Brown. The work description comes right over from the work order. If you want to modify it for whatever reason, you can modify the work description. Same thing with the estimated duration. This will come over from the work order. However, you can modify this. The estimated duration really just means the amount of time it's going to take up on the dispatch board. So some users like this to reflect the amount of time that you expect the technician to be out there. Other users may only want a half hour or an hour block of time taken up on the board so they can put more calls up there. You will discover what your preference is and how you want to use this system. So it's really up to you. For right now, I'll leave it at 2 hours. The status is by default pending, and I'll change that to dispatch. Let me just say the pending work orders, or I'm sorry, the pending assignments. When a pending assignment is on the dispatch board, you won't be able to update the status. If you're using the mobile device application option, pending actually means it won't be available to, the assignment won't be available to the technician's device out in the field. So it might be a case where you're waiting for confirmation or something like that. Dispatch basically means it's ready to go. And in the terms of when you're using the mobile device application, when an assignment is in the dispatch status, it means it is available to the technician's mobile device application. The way we're demonstrating the product, and way we're demonstrating myServiceApprentice, once it's in the dispatch status, you'll be able to submit statuses and status updates, and you'll see that in just a few moments. All that to say, we've changed the status from pending to dispatch. And then notes, these could be more notes about this particular assignment, so I'll just say additional notes. As with the other notes fields throughout the application, if you need to make it bigger, you can click and drag, make the window a little bigger or make the field a little bigger to give you more room to type. And once you're happy with what you've done, click on Save. Now we have an assignment to the work order, and looking in the assignments table right here, we'll see the work description, the technician, Charles Brown, the date, the time, the ETA, or the estimated time of arrival, estimated duration, the status, and basically this says that we'll have a call on the board for this day and this time. To confirm, we can go over here to the dispatch board, click on that, and sure enough, there's a call for the Pizza Shack under that technician at 2 p.m. Looking good. To get back to, actually, let's go back to the work order list. So I'll go up here to main menu, and instead of getting to the work order through the site, since I already have a work order, I'll go to work orders. And sure enough, here's my work order, and they're sorted by date from the earliest date to the most recent. If you want to sort in the other direction, you can do that. Click on the column, and now it's sorted from most recent to oldest. So I'll click on the work order, and here we have our work order. There's the assignment. If you're using the device mobile application option for your technicians, at this point, since we've dispatched this assignment, the technician will be able to see it on his device in the field and collect the information. If you're not using the mobile application option, then you'll need to get the information to the technician somehow. And the way we've designed that is to give you the ability to email the information to the technician. So to email to the technician, you want to go to the assignment. So I'll just click on this assignment. And this is the screen that we were at just a minute ago after we created the assignment. And this should look pretty familiar. And all you need to do is click on Send Email. So this is how we're going to get the information out to the technician, is Send Email. And that'll open up a little email window or email form, and you can put in the technician's email address. I'll put in the support email address at myServiceForce. And if you want to send a copy somewhere, maybe to the customer for some reason, not sure you would want to do that, but you could send a copy to your personal email, maybe the business email, or if you want to send a blind copy somewhere, you could do that also. So CC fields, BCC fields are there in case you need them, but you definitely want the to field so that the technician can retrieve the email as well. The subject is just going to be very standard, that it's a work order assignment, and then it'll put in the name of the site, the work order number, and the call type. If you want to change the subject, you can just click in there and edit it, and that's not a problem. The email will automatically populate with this information and the work order number and so forth, so the tech will have the details. The work order description and the work order notes will automatically appear here, and then you can also add an additional message to the technician. So this would be basically an email that you're sending, or what you might typically write in an email that you're sending to somebody. So I'll just say an email note to the technician. You'll notice this window also has a little triangle in the lower right hand corner. You can expand that to make the window bigger if you need a little more space to type. And once you're ready, click on Send, and you'll receive a notification. Email has been sent. So the email has been sent to your technician. Now we're at the dispatch board, and we can see the work order assignment on the board for this technician. And the email's been sent to the technician, and assuming he's using a laptop or some sort of smartphone in the field, he has the details. Let me just explain a little bit the difference between not using the myServiceForce mobile application and using the myServiceForce mobile application for myServiceApprentice. If, like I'd said earlier, if your technicians are using the myServiceForce mobile application, they'll have the details for this work order assignment on their device, and one of the things they'll be able to do is send status updates back to the office for the work order assignment. So they'll be able to tap a button when they're en route to the job, when they arrive at the job site, and when they're finished at the job site. And the dispatch board would update automatically. Of course, if you're not using the myServiceForce mobile application for myServiceApprentice, you won't get those status updates. However, let's say you have your technician send you text messages, or just call you when he's en route or when he's arrived at the job site or whatever. You can manually update the assignment blocks on the board, and that's what I want to show you how to do now. So let's say you get a text message from the technician saying, hey, I'm en route at the job site. Great, you can come in here on the dispatch board, and you'll see when you put your mouse inside the assignment block, you get some details about the work order and the work order assignment. But right now, I'm just concerned about updating a status of the assignment. So if you click on the M as in Mary, M just meaning you're manually updating the work order assignment. You click on that, and it'll give you the statuses available for this work order assignment. And you'll see you have every work order assignment is going to have these en route, arrived, and complete. Incomplete and hold, they may differ. If you are doing some of our third-party work orders, which is an optional feature, some of the third parties have different statuses and don't have incomplete and hold. So they may differ if you are using some of our third-party work orders. So if you do see something different, let us know, and we can explain the difference if we haven't already explained that. So anyway, in this case, like I said, we got a message that the technician was en route. You click en route. It's going to say, are you sure? Say yes, okay. And that's going to record the date and the time. And if I close that, you'll see the assignment block on the dispatch board just turned to yellow, and the board's refreshing right now. There we go. And if you put your mouse over top of that assignment block, if you look in the lower portion of that pop-up window where it says en route, it's going to give you the date and the time. Now, you may think, well, of course I know the date and the time, I just did it. And that's true. So right now it may not help out a whole lot, but as you go through the day, or even if you look back a week from now, a few days from now, a month, year from now, several years from now, you'll see the exact date and times right there. So while it may not be useful right now, as time goes on, it will be more useful, or will be useful. So you can do the same type of thing when if you get a message that the technician has arrived at the job site. Just click arrived, say OK, and similarly it's going to record the date and the time. And then of course do the same thing whether it's complete, incomplete, or on hold, and we'll say this is complete. Well, I won't do that yet because I want you to see that when you click arrived, the assignment block turns green, as you just saw there. And there we go, it comes back up. And just like with en route, once you do the arrive timestamp, the date and the time appear in the pop-up window as well. So I'll go ahead and give this a status of complete. Maybe I got an email from the tech or a phone call or text message saying, hey, I'm finished. Fantastic. I'll say OK. And it records the date and the time that I marked completed. And you see the departed time there as well. The blue just indicates that this work order assignment was complete. While we're at the dispatch board, I'd like to point out a few things. First, I'll put my mouse over top of the assignment block, and I want to explain the difference between a work order status and an assignment status. You'll notice in the upper portion of the pop-up window in black with the white and yellow text, it'll list the work order and the work order number and then the work order description. In the second line down it says work order status, new work order. And a lot of times people will say, wait a second, you just marked this work order complete. Why does it say new? Well, technically what we marked complete was the work order assignment. So there are several reasons why the work order status and the work order assignment status are independent from each other. And if you'd like a better explanation or a more detailed explanation of that, we'd be happy to go into that with you But for now, just know that they're two separate statuses. That is the work order status and the assignment status. And to change the work order status, really, that's a status you, as someone in the office, you're in control of that status. Um, and it's not dependent on, especially if you're using the MyServiceForce mobile application for myServiceApprentice, you're not dependent then on what status the technician gave the assignment. So to change the work order status, you click on W, and that'll bring up the work order window. And I pointed this out earlier, the status field. So here's where maybe this was an incomplete call or an incomplete assignment. However, maybe you're waiting on parts. Well, you could put it on hold. So you'd know, all right, if I mark something on hold, that means, could mean a few things, but one of the things it means is I'm waiting on parts for that assignment. And once you give it the status, save it, and then close. And now, if you mouse over top of that, you'll see the work order status says on hold. And what's really nice is when you go to the work order list, you can search specifically by statuses of the work orders. So giving the work orders their statuses and following that, making that part of your workflow process of updating the work order statuses, that can be really useful, especially when you're searching for work orders by status from the work order list. Okay, so that's one thing I wanted to point out on the dispatch board. Other things are just the simple navigation. If you want to go back in time to previous days, you can just click on the left arrow here. That'll take you back a day at a time. If you want to go forward, just click on the right arrow. And you can manually change the date. If you want to jump back to, say, April 1st, you could do that. And then click Submit, and that would take you back to April 1st. You can also go to a specific day by clicking on the calendar and choose whatever day you want. You can navigate back through a month at a time or forward in time. And if you want to go to the current day, just go down to the bottom of the calendar there, click on Today. You'll notice that it highlights when you put the mouse over top of it. Click on that, and that will take you. Click Submit, and that takes you to the current day. The Dispatch All button, this has to do with if you have pending assignments on the dispatch board. If you put an assignment in the pending status, you can quickly change them to the dispatch status by clicking Dispatch All. And the main menu, that's just to navigate away from the dispatch board to other parts of the system. One last piece of the dispatch board I want to show you is, well, actually, it's not the dispatch board itself. It's just a button on the dispatch board, and that's the map view. And as of the recording of this demonstration, the map view, while it is an add-on feature or an a la carte feature for the current period, this is being given away as free. So it's a free option for, I believe, the rest of 2016. So I'll show you a little bit of the map view right now. Now, typically, if you click on the map view, it's going to open up in the same tab. However, one little trick that you can use throughout myServiceApprentice is if you right-click on any button or link, you'll get a menu. And this is just part of the browser that you're using, the internet browser. And what you want to do is click Open Link in New Tab. And you'll notice that the map view is now open in another tab. And this can be really nice, so you can easily switch back and forth between the dispatch board, and map view. And you'll see I have a blue pin here on the map, and I'll point out that there is a key across the top showing these pins or buttons, and just what the different colors represent, so I know the one assignment that I'm seeing right now is complete. And you can search for different dates, so see the maps for different dates. And you can also, as your board gets more full, you'll want to be able to hone in on certain things on the board. If you have 20 pins on the board for a current day, you probably won't want to see, in a lot of cases, all 20 at once. So if you only want to see those that are in the complete status, you can uncheck all these boxes and just leave complete up there. Also, any technician that has assignments on the board is going to have an entry in the technicians list right here. And if you want to see assignments for just a specific technician, you can check on that, and you'll see it puts a red circle. So if there were 4 assignments on the board for Charles Brown, all 4 of those assignments would be circled in red. And just like with any maps program, you can go ahead and zoom in here. This can be really, really useful to see where your technicians are at, especially let's say you have 3 technicians on the board and you want to see how you have them planned out, where they're going to be, and you can easily see if you're scheduling your routes efficiently or not. And it's just a really useful tool. Helps with productivity, and most of all, helps with your bottom line. In the last portion of the video, we're going to take a look at creating an invoice. To create the invoice, one place to go is the work order list. From the dispatch board, or from map view in this case, you could go up to main menu and go to work orders and locate the work order you want. Now, the other place you could go is to the customer and site list and find the site and drill down to the work order that way. It really depends on what works best for you. Once you find the work order you want, click on the work order number, and to create the invoice, either click on Invoice, or you can click on New to create a new invoice right here. Now we're at the invoice details screen, and then the comments. This could be information that you manually enter in, or what a lot of people will do is, if their technicians are not using the optional MyServiceForce mobile application, they will have their technicians reply in the email that they were sent, reply with the notes of what they did on the job. And then what you could do is simply open that email, copy the technician's report, if you want to call it that, and paste it right in here. Either way, you can enter whatever you feel is applicable in here. When you make a change, save it. Always a good thing to do. Next thing you want to do is add the items. So you'd have items set up here, or set up in your system. Click on Add, find an item by name, and you'll be able to search for any items that you have in your system. So say you want to search for labor, you could type in part of that word, search for it, and if it doesn't find it, it's not in there. So let's search for something else, and there's our widget. Okay, it'll populate some of this information, or all of the information. And this is where, if you remember from setup, you did put in a description, a default description. You can change this. So you could either add to this standard widget, let's say there's a measurement, so you might want to say 3/4 inch. Or maybe this is just a catch-all item and you want to put something completely different in here. You can put in whatever you want. So whatever applies. Same thing with the price. There is the default price, but if you want to or need to change it, you could then change that to whatever applies. So we'll say $19.99. The quantity will default to 1. Maybe there was 2. You could update that. The tax code, or whether it's taxable or non-taxable, that is going to be filled in by default. You can change it for this particular use of the item if you choose to, but we'll leave it like that. I have what I need. I'll click Save, and that item is added to the invoice. If you want to add more, click Add, follow the same process. To modify or edit an existing item, select the circle or radio button next to the item, click Modify, and then that will allow you to modify whatever you need to, whether it's the description, price, quantity, the tax code, or the notes. And then obviously make a change. You would want to save that. If you need to change tax on a specific invoice, you can do that. So let's say we'll do Pennsylvania state tax, and once you select the tax, it'll calculate that based on what items are taxable and what's not taxable. It'll do the addition, and there you'll have it. When you're all finished with an invoice, click on Close. That closes it out. And if you are using the optional QuickBooks integration, at this point you would want to mark this to be sent to accounting, send it to accounting, or send it to QuickBooks. In this case, we're not using QuickBooks, so we just have an invoice that's closed out, and we can proceed with doing something else. That's going to just about do it for this myServiceApprentice training. Before I conclude, I'll just point out the myServiceApprentice homepage. Remember the resources that are going to appear along the right-hand margin, support and training, also the featured video and how-tos that will be featured here, and the other information on the myServiceApprentice homepage. Also remember the online chat here up at the top. If you ever have questions, we'll be happy to answer them on chat. And when you're finished using myServiceApprentice, make sure to click on Log Out. Speaking of logging out, that's going to do it for this training session. Thanks very much, and remember, we're here if you need us.